So hi everyone. My name is Aneesha and I am the co-events coordinator for Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey, and I'm so excited to be here with everyone today. So I started my environmental journey a couple years ago when I got really interested in environmental activism, and I founded Bye Bye Plastic Bags with my cousins, and it has been such a great experience all around. And plastic pollution is really the subset of environmental activism that I'm most passionate about. So, over the course of the years, working with environmental activism, it has changed my life for the better. I've had amazing conversations with my friends and family and have been a part of changing their lifestyle to a more greener and sustainable one. And not only that, I've developed very important skills for my future, including improving upon my communication skills. So I would say that this journey has had a big impact in my life, and I encourage you all to share it with me. So today I will be speaking alongside Nandini, our guest speaker, and members of Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey, Shweta, and Amy. And I'll give them a chance for them to introduce themselves right now.
Hi guys, my name is Amy and I am a part of the events team for Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey, and I am also the other events co-coordinator, and I am so excited to welcome everyone who is here today. I joined Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey a few years ago, and ever since then I've been working on not only reducing my own plastic usage, but also educating others about the issue. No matter how experienced or knowledgeable you all are with the plastic pollution in our state, I hope everybody learns something new today and in the future is able to apply their newfound knowledge to fighting plastic pollution. I can't wait to share everything that we've prepared.
Hi everyone, my name is Shweta and I'm also part of the events team for Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey. And although I only joined Bye Bye Plastic Bags recently, I'm really excited to help out the environment through this organization. And I hope that through this presentation, we can encourage you all to help out the environment in any way that we can.
Awesome. So now I just want to give you guys a couple minutes to introduce yourselves. Feel free to unmute yourselves and just say your name, where you're from, your high school or college if you want to, and how you've been combating plastic pollution awareness. And it's okay if you just started now and you're just looking for more information as well. So, and you guys can also type it in the chat if you feel more comfortable that way, whatever works for you. So would anyone like to speak up right now?
Do we have a shy group today?
I can go.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it's like it's stuck on my temple thing because I was doing a thing with them earlier and I don't know how to change my name. But I'm Eliza. I live in Westfield, New Jersey, but right now I'm on LBI. And I go to Kent Place. And I recently, since I'm at the beach, I've been just like going and riding my bike near the bay and picking up trash there because what happens is the wind blows it all towards the bay. So I've been doing that and also just trying to educate like my grandparents on things that can be recycled and thinking about ways to reuse plastic.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how lucky to be by the ocean on such a hot day.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to go to the beach today, but it would have been nice.
That's nice. Anyone else?
Sorry, are we what's it called? When I joined, you kind of cut off. So are we introducing ourselves, correct?
Yes, please, if you're interested. Just share your name and where you're from, and if you have any connections right now with working on plastics. If you're a student in high school or college or just a community organizer.
Awesome. So hi, my name is Kim. I'm from Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Right now, I'm a rising senior at East Brunswick Botech. Let's see. something that I'm doing right now, obviously, well, I mean, I'm the outreach director at Bye Bye Plastic Bags, New Jersey. Also, I'm right now I'm trying to think of possibly small projects that um, I and our group could do during this summer and or early fall to spark change.
That's great. All right, looks like we have someone on the chat box, Aneesha.
So, Joanna says, hey guys, had to pick up food, about to drive. Joanna from Elk Township. I attend Rowan University, and I'm co-coordinator for the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition. So, thank you, Joanna.
And I'm thinking Aneesha, Arush is somehow related to you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. A freshman at Morris Hills High School. Thank you. Well, welcome. All right.
I didn't see the comment in the chat. All right, I could just read it, I guess. So he says, hi, my name is Arush Rampali, and I'm the policy leader for Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey. I'm a freshman at Morris Hills High School, Morris County. I'm so excited to be here and learn new things about plastic pollution.
Great. Well, we look forward to meeting the other folks as we go along. Feel free to type stuff into the chat box.
Definitely. Yep. So I was going to say, if throughout any of the course of the presentation you have any questions, I was saying if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns throughout the course of the presentation, don't hesitate. Feel free to type in the chat and we'll address the questions as soon as possible. And we have one more comment. Ava says, my name is Ava. I'm policy coordinator of the ANJEC Student Sustainability Coalition. I'm an incoming sophomore at Robbinsville High School. Thank you, Ava, for introducing yourself. All right, so I guess we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so our organization, Bye Bye Plastic Bags. So Bye Bye Plastic Bags was founded in Bali, Indonesia by the name of two young changemakers, Melody and Isabel. They wanted to ban and advocate for plastics in their area, and it has turned into a global movement of youth saying no to plastic bags. There are so many different teams around the world, and as part of the New Jersey's team, we are focused on raising awareness for plastic pollution and pushing for legislation concerning the use and disposal of plastic bags. As part of the New Jersey team, some of our goals include organizing beach cleanups, pushing for a statewide plastic bill, and, of course, educating the youth of today and tomorrow to say no to plastics. We are always accepting new members, and we love when we see people who are passionate about the environment and making a difference in this world. So if that sounds like you, please feel free to fill out our form and join our team. The link to the form is available on the slide. And even after the presentation is available, we'll be sending a follow-up email for you all with the link to the form as well. So if this presentation inspires you and you want to take action, or you want to wait till later to join, you can feel free to do that as well. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so our mission. So our mission is to foster a better awareness of the harms of plastic pollution through educating our youth, participating in different activities like I mentioned below, like the beach cleanups, and even to inspire our youth and ANJEC community to take action on different environmental issues affecting our statewide community and affecting our local communities as well. So now I want to talk to you guys about the issues and consequences that single-use plastic can have, and even reusable plastic can have on our waterways, our ecosystem, and our human health and more. So I wanted to walk you guys briefly through the life chain of plastic. So plastic begins with being extracted and manufactured and used by consumers in all different shapes and forms. And many of the plastic we use is single-use plastic, meaning that we only use it once or twice before it gets thrown away. And when we throw away the plastic, it turns into waste and is deposited into landfills, and thereby further polluting our waterways and our land and our ecosystem. And once that plastic is deposited, it never really goes away. All the plastic that we've ever used is still in our environment, and that does a lot. It has a lot of negative consequences for marine life, our ecosystem as well. And I wanted to say it also, yeah, like I said, never really goes away. And I think like for something that never really goes away and you only use it for simple tasks, I think it's such a high price to pay, and the amount of damage that we're all causing to our environment. And if you think about it, there's 8 billion people in the world, roughly speaking. So even if each one of those people used one plastic bag a year, that's still 8 billion plastic bags that are going to waste and affecting our environment. And that may not be realistic. Not all 8 billion people are using plastic bags, but easily several million, even several billion are using plastic bags, and multiple per day at that. So that really adds up to the amount of plastic in our environment. And well, you might say, well, what about reusable bags? Reusable bags are an alternative option, but when you deposit them, every 2 years or 5 years, that you're still wasting all that material, and it still gets accumulated into our environment. So who or what is affected by plastic? So plastic has many different long-term effects due to its nature, and some physical effects have to do with marine life and seabirds, and it's estimated that 60% of seabirds have ingested plastic already, and that's 60% of all seabirds, and that's a very high number. And these marine animals, they get stuck with plastic, they get entrapped in plastic, they get entangled in plastic, they ingest plastic, and then they can't eat anything else and they starve. So it has all these dire consequences. And as for chemical, plastic has a lot to do with a buildup of organic plastic pollutants in our ecosystem, such as DDT and PCBs. DDT was a spray that you would spray on plants, which they abolished, but there's still other organic pollutants that are continually building up in our environment. And it's a large-scale pollutant, meaning that the destruction caused by plastic has a vast amount of space for land, a lot of oceans are impacted, and a vast amount of marine life and just species are impacted as well. And it has a lot of consequences for our food chain, our ecosystem, and our human health. So with plastic, when you incinerate plastic, these toxic substances get released into the air, and they get released into our waterways. They get released into other animals that we end up eating, and then those end up having negative consequences for our health. So that's one reason to care about plastic, because it impacts us and the people we love every day. And the important thing to remember is plastic pollution never goes away. So the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that every piece of plastic that has ever been produced is still in the earth. So think about that for a moment. Every plastic throughout the years, since plastic was introduced into our system, every piece of that is still estimated to be on this earth. So you can imagine how much plastic is there and has been there for such a long time, and it's not decomposing. So just think about that. And I also wanted to give you guys some plastic statistics to show you the magnitude of an impact that plastic pollution can have on our environment. I know with the previous slides, you guys saw a little bit of that. I just wanted to give you facts as well. So 93% of Americans above the age of 6 test positive for BPA, or bisphenol A, which is a plastic chemical. And you can find it in food containers, you can find it in canned foods, you can find it in hygiene products. So it's relatively common in the products that we use today. And it has many different dire consequences for our health, including affecting our cardiovascular health, our neurological health, our hormone imbalance, cancer. So it has all these effects that you don't really know about. You might not know about them, and it's very important to know the amount of harm that these plastic chemicals can have on your body. And around the globe, nearly 1 million plastic beverage bottles are sold every minute. So that's another plastic statistics. Think about that. Every minute, there's 1 million plastic beverage bottles sold. And many of those don't even end up being reused and recycled. So all of that just ends up going to waste as well. And when you're talking about a lot of people purchasing these bottles and it's 1 million per minute, that number adds up really quickly. And the average American throws away 185 pounds of plastic a year. And that's a very, very scary number. And that's per year. So think about in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And remember, there's roughly 8 billion people in this world. So when you multiply 8 billion by 185, that's a very, very huge number of plastic that goes to waste, and that's just thrown away. So this really highlights the urgency of an alternative solution and a sustainable solution that we really need concerning plastic pollution.
Okay, so moving on to microplastics. Plastics can take hundreds of years to break down. The average plastic bottle can take 450 years to break down, and plastic bags can take as long as 20 years. But like Aneesha said, plastics never fully go away. Instead of mineralizing, they break down into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics. Microplastics are defined as plastics that are smaller than 5 millimeters. And although some microplastics are designed to be this size, others are a result of larger pieces of plastic degrading over time. An example of a microplastic that you might recognize or you might have even used are microbeads, which are small plastic particles that are found in things such as body wash or facial scrubs. What's really harmful about microplastics is that they act as sponges for various toxins and pollutants, and they collect and absorb these pollutants along their path. And because of their size, they can often pass through filtration systems where they are then released into the ocean, and they can also release all the chemicals that they've picked up along the way, which just pollutes the waters. And they can also be ingested by marine animals. And through the process of the food chain, we can also end up ingesting these plastic particles. So moving on to plastic pollution in New Jersey specifically, plastic pollution is especially a problem in New Jersey, where an estimated 4.4 billion plastic bags are used annually. And this is in New Jersey alone, so just imagine that combined with all the rest of the states in America and the rest of the world. The New Jersey beaches that so many of us love to visit are unfortunately home to tons of litter, most of which are plastic. And the plastic pollution that we face in New Jersey has also extended to our drinking water, as just last year, New Jersey was ranked as the 4th worst state for drinking water violations. And an increasing amount of microplastics are also being found in New Jersey and New York waterways, such as the Raritan and Passaic rivers. And as we are the most densely populated state in the United States, we cause a large amount of pollution in a small area, and thus it's vital for us to make a stand against plastic pollution. So moving on to recycling. Many of us see recycling as the perfect solution to our plastic pollution problems. And though it is useful, the statement is not entirely true because recycling uses a large amount of electricity, oil, and energy. And unlike what many people believe, recycling doesn't always take one plastic product and result in another plastic product of equal quality, because this process is often too complex, time-consuming, and expensive. So instead, many of the items that are taken to be recycled are instead going through a process that can more accurately be called downcycling, which is where recycled material is broken down and remade into new products that are often of less quality. In addition, the recycling process is also inefficient because there's too many different types of plastics out there, and not everyone knows which types can be recycled and which can't, and some types are also harder to recycle than others. And furthermore, the United States is also in a plastic waste management crisis, as China has banned importing plastics since January of 2018. And now that they no longer accept their plastic import, the United States, along with many other countries around the world, is forced to send their plastic waste to countries and communities that don't possess the proper technology, facilities, or enough money to recycle and safely dispose of the plastic waste. So instead, the plastic is often incinerated, which releases even more harmful chemicals into the air and water, or it's dumped into landfills. So in the end, only about 25% of the plastic produced in the United States actually ends up being recycled. So many of us don't think about the impact that something as simple as balloons can have on our environment. There are many problems associated with balloons. For example, many latex balloons are advertised as biodegradable, but they can still take anywhere from 6 months to 4 years to break down. And this is a large time span during which they can cause a lot of damage. Also, balloons can travel large distances outdoors, even more with the help of the wind. And this can spread pollution into areas where it was previously less likely for pollution to reach. In addition, balloons that contain helium are also wasting a finite resource, as helium is used in various other important uses, such as MRI scanners. Due to their bright colors, balloons also catch animals' attentions more easily, and this causes a bigger problem because they can then be ingested by animals and block their intestinal tracts and unfortunately lead to starvation. And many animals also get caught in balloon string, which can choke and suffocate them. But luckily, certain regions are starting to take action to reduce the negative impact that balloons have on our environment. New Jersey, for example, is introducing a state bill, the A4322, to ban the intentional releasing of balloons outside. And so it's important to be aware of such legislation and the fact that it exists so that you can advocate for it and make it more likely that it ends up being passed. So after hearing about all of the negative consequences that plastics can have on our environment, you might be wondering, well, how can I make a difference? How can I help out? So luckily there are several ways for everyone to take action, ranging from making small changes in your own life to bigger movements in your community. So there are several simple changes that you can make in your own life to reduce plastic pollution. Like we said before, recycling is not as efficient as many people think. So it's important to reduce your plastic usage to begin with. And especially now, due to COVID-19, single-use plastics are being used even more frequently. So it's important to cut down on plastic usage wherever you can. And there are several ways you can do this. For example, instead of buying packages of water bottles, you can use your own reusable one. Or instead of taking grocery bags from stores, you can bring your own reusable plastic bag. You can also buy locally sourced fresh ingredients and foods rather than ones covered in layers of packaging. And lastly, you can also avoid products that contain microbeads. Although there was a bill that bans the selling of products that contain microbeads, many products still contain them, unfortunately. And one way to identify whether a product contains microbeads or not is to look at the ingredients. Some common microbead ingredients include polypropylene, polystyrene, and polyethylene. And so if a product contains these ingredients, it might be an indication that this product contains microbeads. So looking at the ingredients or materials can really help tell you whether the product is good for the environment or not. And so the important thing to remember is that just a few people doing zero waste perfectly isn't going to solve much. Instead, it's more important that all of us try to reduce our plastic waste, even if we don't do so perfectly. So for students in schools, one way that you can make a difference is by starting an environmental club like Bye Bye Plastic Bags at your school. All it takes is just a few students who share the same viewpoints as you to get started. And from there, you can then ask a teacher or a staff member if they would be willing to help advise your club. And as always, you can always reach out to Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and we would be happy to help you get started and provide you with the resources that you need to make a difference in your community. So there are also several ways that you can make a larger impact in your community. One way is by supporting and spreading awareness about legislation that bans single-use plastics, like the state plastics bill, the A1978. Organizing and signing petitions is another way to show governments just how many people care about and support your movement, and it's also a great way to spread awareness. Reaching out to your local government officials, such as your mayors, and asking them to establish ordinances that ban plastic bags is another great way to make a difference. And lastly, you could also write LTEs, or letters to the editors, which Amy will explain in the next slide.
So what are letters to the editor? Letters to the editor, or LTEs, are a section in the news publication where the public can share their opinions. Anyone who has a message they want to share can write an LTE and send it to a newspaper to get it published. LTEs are often read by local elected officials, so writing an LTE and sending it to a newspaper is a great way to communicate with the members of your government and make your voice heard. In general, there are two main purposes to writing an LTE. The first reason is to bring an issue to the community's attention. In our case, we encourage you to write your LTEs about plastic pollution in your community and how you think your government should help solve this issue. Another reason you might want to write an LTE is to thank organizations or officials when you believe that a step in the right direction has been made for your cause. This is a great way to encourage people to stay on top of the issue and keep working toward a solution. Now that I've provided an overview as to what LTEs are, it is time to introduce a basic guide to writing them. First, you should keep it short. Limit your LTE to around 200 words and try not to go over 250 words. Because of this word limit, make sure you write in a clear and concise way to effectively communicate with your audience. In your LTE, you should describe a problem that you are passionate about, propose a solution, and end with a call to action. This call to action should involve something that you want your readers to do to help further your cause. For example, you can ask them to sign a petition to increase awareness about the issue, or you can encourage them to become more active with your cause. Throughout your LTE, you should make sure to appeal to your audience and make it relatable. Try to show why you personally care about the issue and tie it to your community so that your audience can better empathize with your message and will be more likely to take action. Once you finish the LTE, send it to a local newspaper company to get it published. Make sure you follow up on it a week or two later by calling the news publication and speaking with the LTE editor. Ask if the paper has received your letter and whether or not they plan to print it. If not, be sure to clarify on the reasons why, and make sure to see if there are any areas where you can improve what you wrote and resubmit your LTE. If your LTE has been published, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and on social media, as this will greatly help spread the word and bring more awareness to your cause. Another method of taking action in your community is through petitions. Petitions are a great way to get involved and make your voice and others' voices heard. In general, when you start the process of writing your petition, you want to first identify and research an issue in your community that you're passionate about. Once you have enough info, you should develop a statement of purpose that states your reasons and goals in writing the petition. For instance, banning single-use plastic bags in your town. Everything that comes after the statement of purpose should expand on your cause, with aspects such as information on the extent of the issue and maybe even why a solution needs to be implemented. Like in an LTE, you should also end with a call to action that encourages your audience to contribute to the cause. Overall, try to write clearly and concisely so you can communicate with your audience in a way that is compelling and easy to understand. After you finish the writing process, set a goal for the number of signatures you want to collect and publish your petition. In order to gather as many signatures as possible, make sure you spread the word again through friends, family, and social media, anywhere that you think there are people who are interested in your cause. Speaking of petitions, our outreach team has created a petition for our state government that urges that the state plastics bill A1978 be updated to match the Senate bill S864 and passed by the state assembly. The Senate bill, which prohibits single-use plastic carryout bags and polystyrene foam food service products, limits the provision of single-use plastic straws, and appropriates money for public education, has already been passed by our state Senate, so getting it through the Assembly is our next goal in order to make it a law. This bill is a really significant step in banning single-use plastics in New Jersey, so if you're interested, make sure to check out the link in the follow-up email we'll be sending after this webinar. All right, and in addition to LTEs and petitions, another important action you can take is to call your Assembly representatives and tell them to support and revise the state plastic bill I just mentioned in the previous slide. To do this, you can look up your Assembly members using our state legislature website, and in order to find out who supports the bill, use the second link on this slide, which provides more details regarding the bill. The sponsors and co-sponsors listed on the site are the members in support of passing the bill, so make sure to call the Assembly members who are not listed to push them to support and amend it, and with your help, we can help get this bill through the Assembly. If you want to learn more about our organization, Bye Bye Plastic Bags New Jersey, make sure you follow us on Instagram at BPBB New Jersey to stay updated. Also, feel free to reach out to us at bppbnewjersey@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns. If you're interested in joining our group, make sure to look out for the follow-up email for this webinar. We'll be posting all the links in these slides, including the link to the forum that you can use to join our team. All right, so we will now be opening up the floor for questions. So if you have any, make sure you type them in the chat box and we will do our best to answer all of them. The questions can be about anything that we've talked about so far in this webinar, as well as anything related to the plastic pollution issue. If your questions don't get answered right now, don't worry, we'll also be accepting questions at the very end of this webinar. And now here's Aneesha, who will be reading out the questions. Aneesha, I don't think we can hear you. Okay, you're good now, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I was saying, Arush says, how small can microplastics get before they finally biodegrade? Shweta, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not exactly sure how small, but like we said before, all plastics are going to stay on Earth. I don't think they can ever reach a size where they will completely be not be here in our environment. So like Aneesha said, all of the plastics that have ever been produced in produced so far, they're all still there in our environment. So I don't think they can actually ever like fully biodegrade.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, it's true. Now we're entering from microplastics into nanoplastics, which are even smaller. A microplastic is like 5 mils. It's like the size of a grain of sand, and now we're getting even smaller. And scientists are finding that in a mother's breast milk, and they're finding plastics that have broken through the blood-brain barrier as well.
How do you think we can improve our recycling system? Yeah, and he recommends Our World Without Us. So how do you guys think we can improve our recycling system? For me personally, I think it's just a matter of communicating with everyone. And I think like at the core of it, it is flawed a little bit. So maybe as we established in the presentation, recycling is not always the most efficient way to dispose of these materials. So just, I guess, finding another alternative solution to recycling would be best beneficial. That's my point of view. Do you guys have any thoughts that you want to add?
Yes, so if I could add to that, one of the problems that recycling has is that people don't know what products can be recycled or not. And so they put like a lot of stuff to be recycled, and that just makes the sorting process a lot more difficult. And there's also the problem of contamination because certain products can't, like greasy pizza boxes, they can't be recycled. So I guess just do your research and see what products can actually be recycled and what can't.
Yeah, awesome. And Ellen sent an article about plastics. So, guys, you check that out when you get a chance. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Kim says, what amount of BPA is harmful for someone to digest? So, I don't know the exact amount, but I do know that you can have very small amounts and still be affected with these different like neurological disorders I mentioned and cardiovascular disorders. So it only takes a little, and keep in mind that these are unnatural chemicals. They're not supposed to be in our body. So, you know, the body is going to treat them as foreign objects. So it only takes a small amount. Does anyone have anything else?
Yeah, we still don't have a full understanding of how plastics are affecting the human body. We are starting to study that even more, but we do know that they are in our bodies. They're in the air we breathe, they're in our water, and they're in our food. But we're a hardy species. We've been around for a while, and if nothing else, we're quite resilient. So we just need to find another product that has the benefits of plastic and not all the disadvantages.
Yeah, definitely.
Great questions.
Yeah, I agree. So does anyone else have any last questions? We're always gonna have we're gonna have two more Q&As. So don't worry if you can't get your question answered. We'll answer it when we can. But does anyone have any questions for now? So ours says, I've read that recycling is inefficient because plastic loses quality every time it is recycled. In a world that strives for quality, this is not desirable. If so, why is recycling hyped so much? Is it just because it's the only solution we have, even if it really doesn't work? And I think that that's a really great point of view, and I think you're really right in that aspect. I think a lot of times people turn to recycling because they feel like, you know, they're doing at least something and they're contributing at least a little bit. But a lot of people haven't really done the proper research, and sometimes it can end up doing more harm than good.
So the real answer is really making manufacturers responsible for the full life cycle of a product. And that includes the disposal of the product or the reuse of the product. And there is a federal act called Break Free from Plastic Pollution that is bipartisan, and it does just that. It's a push for extended producer responsibility, and that's really the best way to stop all of stop all this from happening, because you're right, recycling is not the end answer. And for now, it's part of the solution, and we're going to need many, many, many solutions to help clean up this mess. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, so you guys have any more questions?
I think we should be good for now. And anyone, oh, never mind. Someone has a question, I think.
Yes, ours has a lot of questions for you, Nandini. He says, that's an interesting idea, Nandini, but how would the government link producers with their products?
That exists. That system exists, because we do know who's producing what as far as products. That is detailed. And that's a conversation I'm happy to have with you offline. Why don't we go ahead with this presentation, and you can always contact me. I am going to shoot my email address in the chat box, and feel free to connect with me on a longer conversation about extended producer responsibility.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so with that being said, I'd like to give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Nandini Checko, who is an environmental champion and project coordinator for ANJEC, or the Association for New Jersey Environmental Commissions. We are so excited to work with the organization on this webinar to help spread awareness about the dangers of plastic pollution. And if you don't already know, for 50 years, ANJEC has been a statewide organization that provides leadership, education, and support for environmental commissions and other local boards and public officials, and it partners with other organizations to advocate for strong environmental policy. If you're interested, check out their link at www.anjec.org. And without further ado, introducing Nandini.
Well, thank you, ladies. You guys did a tremendous job. Even I, with the so-called expert, learned a lot. So thank you, thank you. I'm gonna just share my screen with my presentation. Hang on one second. All right. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. As Amy shared, yes, I work for the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commission. We are a private nonprofit, and we're statewide. And there are 565 municipalities here in New Jersey, you know, a lot of them, too many, but we have about 270 environmental commissions throughout the state that work and that we work with. So what is an environmental commission? And I believe other than Joanne, who's part of an environmental commission, I'm not sure if anybody else is. And I'd love to know if somebody else is part of an environmental commission. So back in 1968, the New Jersey legislature passed enabling legislation, which authorizes, but does not require municipalities to set up an environmental commission. So commission members advise governing bodies and boards of health on a variety of environmental issues. So these are your neighbors that are interested in what's happening locally. And the mayor is the one that actually appoints the commission members, and you can have up to 7 volunteers and 2 alternates. There are also quite a few junior environmental commission programs throughout the state. For example, Cresskill, New Jersey has a strong junior environmental commission, and I'm curious if anybody else here is part of an environmental commission. And I cannot see the chat while I look at my screen. So Aneesha, please let me know if anybody else is part of their environmental commission, or as a junior environmental commission, or as an active member.
Yes, I will be sure to tell you that.
Okay. So what are some of the things that environmental commissions do? So back all the way last year, we encourage commissions to reach out to us and let us know what they're working on, and we pick out some of the fantastic projects. There's actually too many to choose from, and we do an achievement award. And we recognize them. So here's just a small sampling of a few of the programs that folks have been working on, from a vegan fest in Berkeley Heights to a Chestnut Street reforestation, Madison Plastic Free Week. This picture here is from Paramus. I was there when Paramus and the Girl Scouts worked towards passing their ordinance on single-use plastic bags and styrofoam. So that was super exciting. There's also recycling sticker projects, and so they work on a variety of issues. Sorry, let me take a sip. So July is also Plastic Free July month. And, you know, I've been part of ANJEC for about 9 years now. excuse me, but started working with plastics probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And the thing about plastics that caught my attention is everything you ladies said. Your presentation is so well researched, so well done. But what struck me is that this is a solvable problem. Half the plastic made has been produced in the last 15 years, and close to 40% of it is for single use. So this is a solvable problem, and I'm really passionate about trying to figure out how to get to solving it. So I'm glad you guys talked about COVID and the increase in single-use plastics. There is a lot of fear-mongering and misinformation that is hanging around the internet and social media that reusables are not safe, but they are. And it's like everything else, you wash your hands and you mask up, you keep that social distance. And then when you come back from home with your reusables, go ahead and toss them in the dishwasher or in the washing machine. Soap and water is really the best way to sanitize your reusables. Upstream is a fantastic resource. They have a lot of great information on plastics, and I encourage you to look at that website. So you guys also touched on the statewide bill banning single-use plastic, single-use bags, styrofoam, and straws. And the number one reason why there's so much interest in that statewide law is because of all the local ordinances. We're up to 96 municipal ordinances, and Camden County and Bergen County also passed resolutions for banning single-use in county facilities. And even during this pandemic, we had towns such as Pennington, Kearney, Oceanport, and Belmar pass their ordinances. Which is very, very positive. We also have 29 ordinances on the balloons, and we have that statewide bill that was introduced. So along with these sort of single-use plastics, cigarettes always show up as number one in the top 10 category on beach cleanups on plastics problems. So don't forget, cigarettes are also single-use. All right, so education needs to happen around there, and unfortunately, we have now all these e-cigarettes. There's a lot of plastic packaging around e-cigarettes, and there's a lot of waste and around those. That's a problem as well. And in our cleanups, we're also seeing problems with small drink bottles, whether it's alcohol or 5-hour energy. I have no idea if that works. I should try one day, but 5-hour energy bottles and see if we're seeing a lot of litter with those small bottles around the state, unfortunately. All right, I am going to talk just generally about an ordinance. So an ordinances are your local laws. This is what determines all sorts of stuff, from where you can build your house, or where a dump is in a town, or about signage and lighting, and what kind of lights can your town have? Can your restaurants be open 24/7, or your local laws are about everything. Here in New Jersey, we are home rule. That means the municipalities, the 565, are in charge of making majority of the decisions. There are only 2 areas that the state makes the decisions on. One is about wetlands, and the other is air. So those are the only 2 that the state mandates come into play, but everything else is determined locally. That's why you can live in one town. I know some of you folks are from Parsippany, that's my hometown. So you can live in Parsippany and you can have a completely different ruling on if a McDonald's is open right next door in Morris Plains. So there's a lot of variety because of local ordinances. And most local ordinances follow this path, which is come up with community support. And here's a great idea. Let's pass a plastic pollution ordinance. The Environmental Commission or another committee will draft an ordinance. ANJEC has a model on our website for single use. And you have a township council member that champions it, the township lawyer reviews it, then the council holds 2 readings, and at least, you know, for public comment, and then it gets adopted as local law. This ordinance you're looking at is the actual ordinance for Paramus. And it was a huge deal that Paramus passed this. Paramus is really the retail mecca of New Jersey. They have every store possible and then some. And they were you know, able to get their ordinance passed on plastics, which is fantastic. I'm not going to go into details, but I just wanted to give you the highlights and the key components for a bag ordinance. The gold standards, it's a ban-free hybrid, which is the ban on the plastic and free on paper. And why is that? Is because we are really working on creating awareness on the amounts that people consume. So we have to put a fee on it, and we find that once there's a fee on it, people will start paying attention. As far as who keeps the bag fee, it's the merchant. The definition for a reusable bag, in fact, I was talking to an Environmental Commission today in Jersey City, and their bag definition said that a reusable bag is a bag that's 2.5 mils thick, which is not much thicker than a single-use plastic bag. And unfortunately, they're running into problems because guess what? Nobody's reusing them. They're just using those as disposables. So the best bag are the ones that with the stitched handles that run for about $1 or so. And a lot of places give those away for free. So that's stitched handles and that they're machine washable. That's really key. Data collection, enforcement is also really important. It's hard to know where you're going if you don't have the data, where you're going and where you've been. Collecting that baseline data is critical. And I know a lot of youth have been part of that conversation, from Teaneck to Howell Township. The students have been doing the hard data collections and making the case for the plastics ordinances. So we want to make sure that that happens. And education and outreach, exactly what you guys are doing a fantastic job on. So those are really key components. So this was touched on as well, as far as the state legislation status, and you guys did a great job. Yes, the Senate passed the version back in January, and now we're just waiting for the Assembly. And here, right for now, they're saying really all bags are going to be banned. And if the store size above 2,500 square feet, so think like a ShopRite. Okay, paper bags are also banned. And if it's under 2,500 square feet, paper bags are free. And that's the current language, and this is always fluctuating. And let's see what happens when the Assembly brings it forth. All right, so tips for impacting with legislators. This is all about relationship building. And this, I would say legislators, township council people, I would put in, family members. Really, it's about building the trust, engaging them, following up, and being respectful, professional, planning out your remarks, being specific, and then sharing your story on why you support a certain cause. All right, you guys did a great job with this call to action. I'm also going to encourage a push for this and ask for you folks to contact Speaker Coughlin. And I shared this with the other when we were doing a preview of this presentation. So I just wanted to quickly bring it up, just in case there are the people on the call that don't know this. The way a bill becomes a law here in New Jersey is that the Senate or the Assembly introduces the bill, and the bills have to match exactly word for word before, and they have to pass both the bill, the Senate and the Assembly, and they have to match, they have to be identical, and then they go to the governor. And the governor then can do a straight veto. He or she can do a conditional veto. And that's how, you know, the bill becomes the law. So I just wanted to just give a little background. And right now, the Assembly bill does not match the Senate bill. And that's why we're asking that it gets updated and match the Senate bill, which is very strong. And then, you know, hopefully it'll all pass and then go to the governor, and Governor Murphy will sign it into law. I also wanted to share that ANJEC currently has a Lechner Scholarship named after Hermiah Lechner. Hermiah Lechner was an eco-warrior here in New Jersey. Feel free to Google her. She's done a lot. Where applications open, pretty easy. It's $1,200. September 14th is the deadline. But you do need to be in college. I'm not sure how many of you on the call are in college, or maybe you know somebody. That'd be great. And that's it. And that's how you find me and Facebook and Twitter.